I was a perfectionist. I had imposter syndrome. Right? I really wanted to sound like an American, right? Like without any accent or no grammatical errors. And I wanted to sound perfect, but it's not possible. I think I could have just accepted the reality and start loving myself. It would have been much easier if I just dropped it, right? Of my ego and my desire to be perfect. Back then, I just couldn't do that, and I really struggled a lot.
Welcome, Evelyn Moon. Evelyn Moon 변호사님. She is a founder and principal attorney at Evelyn Moon Law, specialized in immigration, helping individuals, corporate, and investors worldwide. Thank you
Yes,
for being here.
it's my pleasure. It's my honor.
So Fullerton, I know it's very heavily Asian American population, right?
Yes, the high school that I went to, there were like a lot of Asian, probably more than 60%, 60, 70. And within that Asian student population, I think 70% were Korean. I actually started hanging out with like Korean friends who also immigrated or
Yeah,
moved from Korea, and
yeah.
we watched Korean drama. We spoke in Korean language, so it actually took me a while to actually start learning how to speak English and socialize with other non-Korean friends.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So within our high school, there were two very big trees in the main campus, right?
Uh-huh.
And the one big tree was called Itaewon tree, meaning like second generation tree. And then the other tree was called a fob tree.
Oh my gosh.
So we weren't allowed to socialize and hang out in front of the Itaewon tree.
Uh-huh.
We could only hang out in front of the fob
Oh,
tree.
you were in the farm tree.
Yeah, so it was kind of very strange cultural shock to me. To me, it was the cultural shock, right? So I wasn't even allowed to hang out. Not allowed, but like it was really hard to make um, you
Yeah.
know, non-Fabi friends
Yeah.
as a super Fabi person, right? So I was often called a fob, right?
Right.
Like when I was walking by, the
Mm.
second generation kids would just make fun of
Mm-hmm.
you know, people who just, came to the States.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really nice and pleasant experience,
Mm.
right? It was like my very first experience feeling that I'm not accepted, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not welcomed
Yeah.
in a place by same Korean people. You know what I mean?
Many of my guests share that experience actually. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's
Yeah. So
very
when I saw your podcast title
mm,
1.5, right? Um, I think we have our own special bonding or like connection that we can feel, right? Because of this unique experience that we go through. And we're not like 100% Korean because we sort of adjusted, and to this culture, right? And but then we're not 100% Americanized, right? Because the other half of us is still like very Korean minded. So it's like half and half. I feel like I'm in between,
yeah, yeah,
exactly 1.5.
right. So you went to law school in LA as well?
I went to Chapman Law School in Orange. So after
Oh,
graduating from UCLA, I went to Chapman. There's a private law school very close to my house. Yeah. There was another crazy cultural shock because I was the only Korean in my class. And then there were only like three Asian students, Asian American students in my class. So you know how UCLA is like Asian school? Going from high school, right, where 70% of Asian, out of which 70% was like Korean, to UCLA to Chapman Law School was a really big change and cultural shock for me.
yeah. How was that like moving
So
from
I,
California, I mean, UCLA to Chapman?
I think that's when I realized, this is the real America, like I think I was in a comforting zone where, I get to connect and hang out with my other fellow Korean friends and Asian American friends, right? But when I went to Chapman, for the very first time, I felt like I wasn't part of the group. You know what I mean? I felt
Again,
like I was different,
yeah,
again.
yeah.
Yeah,
Did
because
you?
back then in high school, it was between my other fellow Korean American friends were born here, second generation, right? But this time, for the very first time, it was actually me versus American-born Caucasian friends um, whom I didn't really get a chance to socialize and hang out with. Nothing bad about it, right?
Yeah,
Nothing bad.
yeah,
I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but it was my very first time feeling a little isolated
yeah,
um, and different.
yeah. Did you feel like you had to learn the culture one more time, like once again?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. Yes, I feel like I'm learning another culture one more time.
Yeah, yeah,
It was that big of a difference.
sure. I mean, yeah, I could relate because when I was growing up, like I said, most of my friends were Koreans, like, the close ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And everything was Korean, everything, I mean, we spoke like Konglish, but still very Korean, right?
Mhm.
But when I started working, it was like a whole new world. It's like,
Yes.
I don't know anything about America, I felt like.
Oh, yes. That's how I felt like.
Yeah.
Oh, where was I? Right? I thought I was living in America, but no, I wasn't. I
Mm,
was living in that little,
mm,
I felt like I was in the invisible circle of, I don't know, little
yeah,
corner.
yeah, yeah. So how did you overcome that?
I mean, I had no choice and I just had to face it, right?
Mm,
Because every day, there's something called Socratic method in law
mm,
school
mm,
where a professor would just call on your name
mm,
and just give you all these questions in front of everybody, almost like a mock trial.
mm,
And you have to be ready for that, right? But I'm sure you know, I was still learning how to speak English and express myself in English.
sure.
And at that time, I was still thinking everything in my head in Korean first and then translate and then spit out in words, right? So for me to handle that spontaneous, instant conversation with the professor, discussing and talking about the case, a legal case scenario, and for me to just respond, not only respond, but share my ideas and my opinion was very challenging. It was very
Oh,
challenging and difficult and very nerve-wracking.
yeah, I could
So for the
imagine.
yeah, so full 3 years of law school, I have to honestly tell you, like I did not enjoy at all. A lot of people, enjoy law school, especially after first year, everything is easier and you make friends, right? And then you socialize. But I really did not enjoy 3 years of my life in law school.
Were you under a constant stress?
Yes, I was under constant stress. I couldn't sleep. But at that
Oh,
time, I think I was a perfectionist. At the same time, I had imposter syndrome, right? Just a typical Asian American minority
yeah.
female student, you know, um, mindset, right? So I really wanted to sound like an American, right? Like without any accent or no grammatical errors. And I wanted to sound perfect, but it's not possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that I couldn't control. And yet my mind is like there, right? I want to be
Mm,
that person.
mm,
But reality is you can't. You
yeah.
just cannot be, right? So I think I could have just accepted the reality and start loving myself, right? Just as is,
Mm,
without, putting that mindset of, oh my gosh, I want to look perfect. I want
yeah.
to, sound like them. I want to, talk about this case scenario like naturally in very natural English. Like you really want to have that,
Yeah.
perfect yourself,
Mm,
features, right? But I wish it would have been much easier if I just dropped it, right? Of my ego and my desire to be perfect.
mm-hmm.
But I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So back then I just couldn't do that. And I really struggled a lot.
Yeah. Hindsight is always 2020, right? They say.
Hmm.
Yeah. I share the same sentiment
Hmm.
with you. Yeah.
Hmm.
We try so hard, right? I think I spoke with another guest this morning too. That feeling of not enough, not being enough,
Hmm.
is just a haunting situation. I think,
Yeah.
especially for 1.5 generation, because like you don't feel like you're not enough in
Mhm.
either of the situations, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So tell me more about your work.
So I mainly work with US companies, either American companies or Korean, like big Korean companies who have US branch office or
Mm,
subsidiary affiliate office in the US. Then I help the US companies hire foreign talents through the work visa process. Also, I work with individual clients, change their status from student visa status to a work visa status, and eventually, a lot of people want to stay here. So green card sponsorship, right? So I
mm,
can walk them through the process.
I
I
see.
also work with individual investor clients. Individual investor make an investment into the U.S. project that must create 10 U.S. jobs.
Uh,
Then there's a way that you can obtain green cards. So the main purpose of this EB5 program is to boost the U.S. economy by creating U.S. jobs through foreign investment, right? So that's actually one of my specialties. I've been doing that for more than, oh God, so many years, more than 10 years.
That sounds like an intense workload.
Yes, because of many different types of cases. Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I have to switch my gears in my brain, like back and forth, depending
sure.
on the visa category.
Uh-huh. How do you manage as a working mom? Your
Again,
time, yeah.
chaotic. Again,
Yeah,
very chaotic.
of
But
course.
I try to go to sleep really early, like at around like 9:30, 10 p.m. with my kid. And then I wake up at 3 a.m. and then I start
3 a.m.?
working 3 a.m. But
Evelyn.
I still get to sleep 6 hours a day. So
Okay,
9 to 3 or 3:30.
okay.
So I start working from 3 to 3 a.m. until my kids wake up, my husband and kids wake up. And that's when I start packing lunch and get ready for them to go to school. Then I come to my office. I try to come to my office at 9 a.m. every day. And then I do my work. And at around depending on whether my son is in summer camp or during the regular school year, um, I end my work at around like 4:30, sometimes 5 p.m. So then I try to focus on spending time with my two little ones between after my work and until dinner time and until they go to sleep. That's like one resolution that I made to make sure that I am a present mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a mom who's just all over the place, always on conference call and like not even there attending meetings. So I try not to do any meetings or events in the evening. So I try to find all the networking events that are held during the lunchtime.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that sounds great, but I know how hard that is to manage your time and your career, and it's such a demanding one too, you know?
Yeah,
So, wow. Good for you.
because it's constantly changing, right?
Yeah,
Immigration.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it is demanding
Mm,
and sometimes like very mentally draining. Um, but I just love what I do because I get to help my clients, either whether that's to achieve the American dream, right, individually, or I get to help the US companies um, hire and work with foreign talents on their very critical projects um, that can also create new jobs, right? So directly or indirectly, I get to help individuals or companies, right? So I think it's really rewarding practice area within legal field.
is that one of your life goals to make an impact or to serve?
Oh, I love your questions. Oh my gosh, man, all of your questions are so beautifully worded. So,
Oh, thank you.
and that's such a great question.
Mm,
So before that incident, even after car accident, it was all about me, right? I want to go to the law school. I want to become an attorney and I want to do this and that. So it was all about me, 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 right? I had a goal, right? I had a vision and I had objective and I wanted to be successful, right? But I never thought about what is my why. It was all about success that was already defined by society when I was in law school and then even after I became an attorney. So I really worked hard, like
yeah.
90 to 100 hours per week. I really worked hard and became an partner and the managing partner. So I made my way up and I actually made it. But it wasn't until faced, I encountered a situation where I was completely vulnerable, like physically and mentally, when I went through that stage of my life where I was bedridden and my baby was sick, right? And I had to close my firm. I had my vision and goal, right? I want to be a successful firm owner and, I want to start hiring more people and I want to grow my firm and I want to be that successful entrepreneurial, woman
Yeah.
attorney. You have that vision, right?
Sure.
But it was all about me, myself, and I. And success was all about like money and buying a better house and car and expensive stuff, right? But I never thought about, but why? What's after that? What's after, what do you want to do after you achieve all that, right? And I realized that you're right. Like I never thought about what is my why? What's my mission? What's my actual goal that I want to do in my life? And that's when I seriously thought about number one, without help, right? Without help, you're nothing and you're no one. You can't do anything, right? So health is number one, should be the number one priority. And then what do I want to do? So I started focusing on what I like doing and what I enjoy doing. And then I started thinking, how can I help other people using my talents and skills that I just naturally have? So I started thinking about that very seriously. And I realized that I really enjoy connecting people just like you do. You connect with so many other exceptional and great speakers and invite them to your podcast. And, you make this community, right? So
Yes.
I love doing that too. And I realized that there's so many other vulnerable minority attorneys, whether that's female or male, doesn't matter, right? Um, who are struggling, right? Because of the glass ceiling, because of their background, cultural pressure and pressure to be always perfect, good, and become a doctor or lawyer. That's it, right? You only have two options, kind of mentality, right? I really wanted to create a space, right, where we can connect among ourselves and we can learn from each other and we can support one another, right? So that we can sort of break that, I don't want to say barrier, but whatever that is created because of our generational,
Yeah. Yeah.
cultural, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that we can all have our own vision, our own dream, our own life goals and purpose. Because if you just chase after whatever the success defined by society, which is getting A plus, going to law school or medical school and become that top person in your field, without having your own vision and like dream and purpose, you're gonna be burned out
Yeah.
eventually, and
Right.
you're gonna have very dry life
Mm.
where you don't feel that fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
And I
No joy.
realized no joy. Exactly. The joy is a keyword. But when you live your life doing something that makes you feel like so joyful and makes your heart drop almost,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then your life just suddenly becomes so fulfilling and so beautiful, right?
That's really wonderful. How beautifully you put that together.
Oh, thank you.
Oh. So, do you have some sort of a community outside of your law practice, or is that through your law practice that you are mentoring and connecting these people?
So I started to gather other minority female attorneys in my area, Orange County, and then now we have 60 plus people. So I just
Wow.
randomly started creating this Kakao group,
Mm.
and then I just started like gathering with my one other fellow attorney,
Mhm.
and then we have 60 plus, and we started organizing like lunch and learn, where we
Mm.
invite like very successful female minority attorney in our
Mhm.
area, so they can share work-life balance, their marriage life, and
Mhm.
how they manage their crazy working mom life to become that successful, right? And we just ask them like tips and advice, right? And then we do Galentine events and holiday parties, summer social. So by doing that, I realize how happy and joyful I am when I
Mm.
connect with others and when I help other people connect with, different professionals whom they can learn from.
Yeah.
And whenever, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we
been very
because
rewarding.
yeah, I mean, because we all need a community, right? We all need people around us.
Mhm.
So yeah, what do you see as like a common thread of challenges that minority women lawyers go through?
I mean, I don't want to generalize it, but a lot
Right,
of
we
them,
know, we know.
including myself, are
Yeah, yeah.
perfectionists with imposter syndrome
Mm,
who don't know how to say no. So they end up killing themselves to like be that best version of themselves without having any rest, right? Without taking any break. Because we were raised by our parents to be that way, right? And we never objected and we never, sort of created any problem really well, right? So
right,
we were
right.
always that A plus, textbook type of person, right? Textbook type of a girl who went through school with good grades and then good university and law school and attorney, became that proud daughter, of our parents. And then when you go into a workforce, right? When you work with, your supervisor and partner attorneys, a lot of them can be male, right? Um, they just say yes. That was me actually. I was always like that too. I would always say yes, never said no, always volunteered to work extra hours on weekends and holidays, right? Literally like killing myself to always prove myself, right? And constantly seeking validation, not from within me, myself, but from others. You know why? Because we never got that validation from our parents or, our surroundings. And I think that's a very universal, very common thing that I see. But there's always time when you feel like you're hitting the wall, right? That can be a very traumatic experience or unexpected situation like I went through my baby sickness and my health issues, or unexpected challenges that you have in the workplace, right? Whether that's relationship challenges related to relationship or your own limit feelings like you're limited in terms of growth. Whatever that is, when you're faced with a situation where you cannot control anymore, right? Because all this time as a student and then, going through school,
Yeah,
you can sort of control your life and yourself, right? By working extra hard.
yeah.
But when you're out here in the workforce, you can't. There's so many situations that you cannot control,
Wow.
right? Especially after becoming a mom or
Right.
working with third parties, right? Then we struggle and we break down. But then you know what the worst part is? I'm sure you can relate.
What?
They're afraid of speaking up and speaking out. They're afraid of seeking help. Why? Getting therapists, talking to a psychologist is not a good thing
No.
in our society. You're not supposed to talk to a therapist. You're not
Mm,
supposed to take any medications, right?
mm,
So they never seek help,
mm,
meaning deep inside, it's like gradually built up and accumulated, right? And then one day you explode
yeah.
when you cannot handle it anymore. So I've seen a lot of people who just completely leave the legal space after getting
Wow.
burnt out and like when they cannot handle it anymore. So my mission is to mentor a lot of law students and younger attorneys who are just getting into the legal field. As a minority woman attorney, I really want to mentor as many of them as possible
Mm,
so that when they hit a wall, right? When they
yeah.
feel like they're faced with crazy challenges, they have that room, or at least like they know that there's a support.
Yeah.
There's support that they can always rely on and lean on to, right?
Yeah. How true that is. I mean, everything that you mentioned, we see across the board of especially Asian Americans,
Yes,
especially us girls, right?
yes,
Because we
yes.
grow up hearing, obviously you have to be good, you have to do well, you have to be nice, you have to be kind. All these things. Well, I mean, there's no reason to speak up because no one's listening, and you're always shut down by, in
Yep.
our cultural experience anyway.
Yep.
Um, but and then we grow up and you hit a wall and you just go on until you break down completely.
Completely.
Yeah, and then there's like no point of return for many people because we don't deal with it, before we get there. So
Yes.
true. And
Yeah.
the thing about what you're doing is so wonderful because a lot of people get to that point because we feel alone,
Hmm.
right? We're the only ones no one understands. But as you're mentoring the younger attorneys, for them to really even know that there is a community surrounding them, where they have a place to go to, they could talk to someone who will understand exactly what they're going through. So that's really wonderful. I
That's what
love
I
that.
needed the most.
Yeah,
Exactly what you
yeah,
said. That's what I needed the most. So that's
yeah,
when I started like gathering minority female attorneys in my area.
yeah.
And now we have 60 plus.
Wow.
Looking back, all this car accident and my, work situation and then my post delivery complications and my baby sickness, I realized everything like dots are connected, right? I can connect the dots. And without those incidents, it can never be the same. Like I would never be the person who I am today. And I never would have had this life purpose and vision, right? So maybe we go through these crazy life storms and challenges for a reason, right? And no accident, incident are a waste of time or, you know, I realized everything has meaning and reason and
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
But can I ask you something?
yeah. Of course.
Like, what made you start this podcast,
Mm.
and what's your purpose?
That's my purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, so I grew up obviously as 1.5 generation in this country, experiencing all the things that you and I talked about in the beginning, right? That
Mhm.
not belonging, not feeling not enough, and not just welcomed in this country, and just not feeling comfortable in my own skin, type of
Mhm.
thing, and
Mhm.
trying to figure out who I am through all these experiences, right? And it
Mhm.
was a very tough time for me, like over the
Mhm.
years. And I really wanted to, I've always had heart for the younger folks who are going through these things.
Mhm.
So I studied counseling, I worked as a counselor, and I
Mhm.
do public speaking and all these things. But then, of course, I got very sick. I had breast cancer
Mhm.
10 years ago. And it really, like you said, I planned out all these things in sequence, but then everything just not working out in as my plan, right? So I had a lot of time to think about, okay, what is it that I want to do? How do I want to be remembered?
Mhm.
Yeah, when I leave, right?
Mhm.
By my children, my family, my friends, and my community.
Mhm.
And I realized that I have heart to give,
Mhm.
skills to speak, and
Mhm.
to connect, and
Mhm.
to really like comfort people. I
Mhm.
could create this space where people could come together and share their story because we all have a story to tell.
Mhm.
We all
Mhm.
have want to be heard,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
we all want to encourage one another through our
Yes.
stories. So I wanted to make that space, virtual space, for people to come and share that. The end goal is to be encouraged and feel there's a community, there's people who
Mhm.
understand, went through the same experiences.
Mhm.
You're not alone. We could do this, and it gets better. So those are the some purposes that I have for this podcast.
Oh, that's so beautiful and
Hmm.
inspiring. And thank you for creating this community for all of us. And
Oh,
I've been listening to your podcast like from the beginning, and
oh yeah.
it's my great honor to be
Oh, thank
invited.
you.
And also, I think it's such an amazing um, thing that you're doing for the community because just like you mentioned, everybody wants to be heard, right? And we really want to share our story with one another. And I think we as 1.5 generation with immigrant background, it is even more special, right? To be able to speak out and share our stories so that we
Yeah.
can learn from each other and we can grow together
Yeah.
as a community. So I think it's a really beautiful mission that you have.
Oh, thank you. You know, it's funny because I think we learn these things as we age. I think when we're
Mhm.
younger, it's hard to grasp that concept of
Yeah,
like community. Okay, what about like
I
I'm,
totally agree.
yeah, right? And
Yes,
I think that's part of the grace of getting older is that, yeah, you are able to look around.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
so.
And also, I'm so glad you mentioned that because when I was younger,
Mm,
even the concept of helping others was to make myself look good,
mm,
right? Like, it was all about me. Even like to do the community service or, right, like to help, other people. The main point was to make myself look good
mm, mm,
and get validated and get praised, right? But I think you really start to feel like very fulfilled, like 100% fulfilled and very happy and excited and joyful when you truly want to help others without expecting anything in return.
yeah.
That moment can only happen when you sort of surrender yourself,
Mm,
your ego, your desire, your greed, and everything, and decide to take the courage to start defining your own success. I like my age, you know?
yeah, me too.
I like getting old because
Mm,
all these experiences may help me find my real life purpose and um, and be able to truly desire and want to help other people, right? Using my talent and my skill is really amazing.
yeah,
And that feeling of fulfillment is something that I can never buy with money.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I'm really blessed. I feel so blessed and thankful in that sense.
yeah, yeah. Yes,
Mm.
we like our older selves, right?
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I think that's a blessing in itself that
Mhm.
we actually grow to like ourselves more and more. You know,
Exactly.
I like what I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we're so
wonderful.
blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for the wrinkle that,
We won't look at that.
yeah, we can get some help.
Yeah, exactly. It's so wonderful to be able to, accept yourself and
Mm.
like yourself, and
Mm.
then you could truly be a helper for
Mhm.
others. Do you have any tips for other working moms on work-life balance, or is there one?
I don't think there's one, right? Like, I'm sure you've already went through that, but
Mm,
there's no work-life balance, right? There's no
mm,
perfect work-life balance, and you just like move forward and, try your best to get through the day, right?
mm, mm,
But I think one thing to always try to remember for myself is to self-care.
mm,
Like, I always make sure to put an oxygen mask on me first, right? Try to take good care of myself first. So you already start to feel that you need that alone time, right?
yeah.
Like when you're stressed with work and, kids running around, crying, fighting each other, and, you fight with your husband and, all kinds of family, personal, work-related conflicts, and it's so chaotic, right? But one thing that we all, as working moms, should always remember to do is to make sure to make that time
Mm.
to do something that we love doing, whether that's decoration or nails, getting nails done, or having a spa day, or going out and with your friends and have some coffee. Not with like coffee meetings with business folks, but like
Mm,
with your best friends, right?
mm,
I know it's really hard to find that time, and
yeah,
especially if you have younger kids,
right.
right? But even if that means to hire a nanny to, have that time maybe with your husband, like date night or with your friends. I think it's really important to have that self-care, regular self-care routine.
And not
Yeah.
feel guilty about it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a good tip. It's so hard to
Hmm.
do. You know what I
Hmm.
learned today with my other guest? And she
Oh
said
yeah.
our brains work actually when we're at pause.
Oh my God.
I
That's so
know,
crazy. That's so true.
right?
Yes.
So that me time, the self-care time is actually necessary.
That's so
Yeah,
true. Oh my God. That's just one liner. It's just so true.
right?
I never
So,
thought about it that way.
me neither. So,
Wow.
I really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It was so much fun.
Me too. I
Uh,
really enjoyed our conversation. Thank
yeah,
you so much for having me.
thank you so much, Evelyn.
Yeah.